We're gonna kick things off tonight with a Netflix film, The Day Shift. Or no, just Day Shift, not The Day Shift. A hardworking blue-collar dad who just wants to provide a good life for his quick-witted 10-year-old daughter. His mundane San Fernando Valley pool cleaning job is a front for his real source of income, hunting and killing vampires. Day Shift, starring Jamie Foxx as Bud Jablonski, Dave Franco, Carla Souza, Steve Halley, Scott Adkins, and of course the incomparable Snoop Doggy Dogg, Snoop D-O double G. Day Shift. Greg, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
This is going to be a hot take. Okay. In terms of setting out to accomplish something, and not only delivering but exceeding expectations, this is the best Netflix movie I've ever seen.
That is, Triple Frontier is probably the only one I can think of that I like thoroughly just enjoyed the hell out of. In the same sense as this, having no expectations and going. I think actually I had some expectations maybe for this a little bit. For real, no reason other than I really like Jamie Foxx and I really like Dave Franco and of course Snoop but you're not. I mean, it's definitely I would say top 3 for me on that. I have to go back. Like I said, Triple Frontier.
Yeah, I'm looking at
that was just insane, but
I haven't seen that. Digital Trends has just here's a few: The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, My Octopus Teacher. I know you had talked about that.
Yeah.
Some of these aren't. The Adam Project was pretty good. I will say
that was pretty solid. Yeah.
But I don't. But again, in terms of trying to accomplish what it's trying to accomplish and exceeding expectations, I think that this was the best Netflix movie I've ever seen. In terms of what it was trying to do and what it accomplished.
And before we get into spoilers, I mean, I don't really know if spoilers really entail with a movie like this, but whatever. The thing I will say is, I really like the way it looked. I know that's like, when you think about movies like this, it's like the pop of everything. It's California. Jamie Foxx is wearing like Hawaiian shirts, which I would love to have literally every single one of the Hawaiian shirts he owned. I'm a big Hawaiian shirt guy to begin with. So I really like that. I like the way that he and Dave Franco played, with each other, against each other, all that kind of stuff was really good. It felt very real in the sense of like what this job is, even though it's, obviously a ridiculous fictional job. And then every other character that like came in mattered. It didn't feel like there was a character that was like, oh, this character's just here for, no reason. And everything went really, really quickly. I think this movie was maybe with everything an hour and 57 minutes with everything.
It wasn't even that long.
It was whatever it was under 2 hours was my biggest thing, was that it was under 2 hours. And I've always said that most movies can probably be under 2 hours and accomplish what they need to do. Of course, there are movies out there that can be longer and should be longer, and that's fine. Because you want to get what you pay for, I guess, too, when you do that. But this was like a very nicely paced movie where everything worked.
Hour and 54.
Hour 54.
Yep.
And nothing seemed overdone or overcooked. Like there wasn't a rehashing of anything, and anything that was called back to worked. I think the biggest thing is when Dave Franco just pees his pants, and I thought that was funny. Like, and I think they made the joke 3 times, and it was like that's perfect. It was 2 times he actually did it, and then the 3rd time is when he does it for a different reason. But I just thought everything really worked really well. I thought it was just funny enough, and wasn't trying to be too funny. It wasn't trying to make over the top jokes all the time and just try to keep you laughing. Had good action. especially for being a Netflix movie and not, being like this, $400 billion budget or whatever, anything like that. It seemed that the plot mattered enough. I know when we saw the trailer, we were like, oh, did it have to be a family thing? But then you understand why it becomes a family thing because of other aspects. So it all, to me, really worked. And I will say I definitely didn't have low expectations. I had fair expectations for this. Walked away totally, completely pleased. A movie where the last 45 minutes, the phone was completely down. I just wanted to watch it. I was like, I really just want to enjoy watching this and take it all in. And so for me, it's hard to say best where it was very good. I think it's pretty rewatchable too. I definitely think that. I think they really did everything well. And Snoop's cameo, just to go on that, great. It's what you exactly want from Snoop. Not too much, not too little, perfect amount.
I think that, like you said, the aesthetic was very pleasing because it looked like you would know better than I would, obviously, living out there, but it looked hot. And I mean temperature. Like it looked
it's in
like
the valley, which is in the valley is always 10 to 15 degrees warmer than actually LA proper. It's so warm there because it's just desert, nothing.
Yeah. It's so, excuse me. I had a long day shift today, so I'm a little worse for wear. But here we are. I mean, it's 10:38 on the East, so welcome to the night shift, motherfuckers.
That's right.
I think that it looked hot. The colors popped, just like you said. The characters all blended well. I thought that there's enough plot, but in the end, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yep.
And that's the thing is that I was kind of looking for is I just want to see some rad vampire killing. And I think that you get that from pretty much tip to tail in this movie. And I think the other thing is that Jamie Foxx is somehow underrated as an actor and overrated at the same time. I think he's overrated because he did Ray and he won an Oscar, and people look at him as like, oh, well, you did this, you played this amazing role and you won an Oscar for this. Why are you not doing more dramatic movies like that? And he was great in Collateral in a more dramatic role. But I feel like he's underrated because he can carry a movie like this in the same way that somebody like Nick Cage, who we often talk about, obviously, can carry a movie where it's just completely ridiculous. And I think that the thing that Jamie Foxx brings to the table on a movie like this is that he understands what the job is and he takes it seriously. You know what I mean? He was not mailing this in. You know what I mean? This is like you said, it's a probably pretty low budget Netflix movie where it's a vampire comedy horror, I guess you could call it. And you have, Snoop's in it and Franco, who's known for comedy, is in it. And he understands exactly what he needs to bring to the table, and he brings that to the table. And I think that he did a really good job of making that character just believable. And despite the premise being ridiculous and the action being over the top and, like you said, the bright colors and the Hawaiian shirts, he brings a level of credibility and believability to that role as Bud Jablonski, which just the name itself, Bud Jablonski. How many Jablonskis do you know that are black guys in the Valley? You know what I mean? Like you could probably roll a quarter down a street in Polish Hill in Pittsburgh and 10 Jablonskis will fall on it, but not, you know what I mean? Not out there. But yeah, I thought he was great. I thought Franco brought great comedic chops to his role as kind of the buttoned up, the suit basically, who's there to be his babysitter. And then obviously Snoop Dogg, he's not in a lot of things, but when he is, he's really just playing himself.
Yeah.
And I love, and if, oh, he's on my side here. He just like, he like dressed like the Undertaker, basically, with the
Mhm.
cowboy hat and everything. But the other thing that I felt, and we can kind of ease into spoilers here, is I felt like they left this open for a sequel. What do you think about that?
Oh, that was actually going to be my next comment, Brandon. It's like this is, if this doesn't have a sequel, I'll be shocked
Yeah.
because, and they hit on spoilers, that was a nice touch where like Dave Franco's character uh, becomes a vampire, but is a good vampire.
Right.
And, and I thought that was a cool touch. And it was like this whole thing where like not every vampire is actually bad and out for, killing everybody. I mean, they had that thirst for blood, and that's still evident,
Mhm.
but that wasn't the main like thing. It was like, oh, there's the bad ones. It was like, just like people, vampires are the good people, the good vampires, the bad vampires. They're all just trying to do this. And I thought, like, yeah, keeping Dave Franco as like still an assistant, still
Mhm.
at first an assistant, but then an actual like, co-worker, with him is, I really thought it was genius. And I feel like they thought, we have something good on our hands. We can probably spin this into two. And I think
Mhm.
a second one would work fine. It's just going to be like, more of the same, which is, I think, perfectly fine because this movie, like you said, there's a plot, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing here is, and we can maybe talk about these gents as well, but there's like weirdly this is like ripe for a spin-off too with the Nazarian brothers,
Yeah. Yep.
played by Steve Howie and can't remember the other guy's name, but I mean they show up for a scene. They're like these horrible Middle Eastern, or not Middle Eastern, but Eastern European accents.
Yeah.
It's just like they just fall in
So
and out of
funny.
the accent. It's just
Yeah.
like, because I said, Steve Howie is a big, plays a big role on Shameless. He's one of the Kevin. He's in
It's a
that
shameless
role.
summer.
Yeah. And yeah, with the bear. But those two, I mean, them coming in and they just lay waste to this house. But I think they left enough breadcrumbs throughout that definitely point to a sequel. The mention of like this legendary vampire in Europe, like that's what it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be, is the sequel is going to be like Day Shift goes to Europe or something like
Yeah.
that. And it's going to
European
be,
vacation day shift.
yeah, exactly. And maybe the two Nazarian brothers play a larger role, but it was funny, and
Yep.
the action was great. It was exactly, I mean, it was it was tropey, but also in a way that it was so campy. And
Yeah.
that's what you want from something like this. And I think that we said, one of us, I think it was I said it in the trailer reaction we did for this movie, was that this is what the Army of the Dead, or the whatever that Dave Bautista Scott
Mm-hmm.
Snyder movie
Right. Right.
should have been,
Right.
because you had zombies in Vegas. You could have made that as campy as hell, but they just made it like, okay, it's just gonna be action, and
It took itself too
it
seriously,
took
I think,
itself,
was
yeah,
like
it took
part of,
itself too
and
seriously.
this just didn't
Yes.
at all. And it was
No,
like
not at all.
that.
Not even a little bit.
And this is the one thing I really thought about. And we can score whatever you want
Mhm.
to do next. But the biggest thing I really thought about was, this is one of the first times I've watched a movie that was on Netflix or any of these streaming things where it was just streaming, not the theater. And I was like, how much fun would this have been to be at a theater? It's maybe like half full,
Mhm.
and you're just there because like maybe you're seeing a matinee or something like that, and everybody's gonna walk out with like a smile on their face. Like I think that was like one of those
Yeah.
things, like, it's not the Marvel movie where like there's that anticipation, and for the most part, everyone's gonna walk out loving it no matter what, just because we've been, you know, told that we, in a way, like almost told like
Journals.
we're gonna like, yeah. And it's one of those things where
Didn't walk out
uh
loving that one. But anyway, I
yeah, and
digress.
it's just like one of those things where I think like this would have been like that feel good, like holy cow, like that was
Mhm.
fun. It was worth like $7 matinee ticket on a Tuesday or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're gonna forget about it maybe. But it was like that was the one thing I thought about. I was like, everyone's gonna have a good time. The laughs would be just enough, and it was like one of the first times that I really felt that. And it's like it's been to, a lot of just Marvel movies and not really much else other than Batman. And it was like, man, it's like I'm starting to get this transition where I was like, I kind of just want to go to the movies for other things, just for that experience of like that shared like enthusiasm. And it's like this movie is the first one to really make me feel like that. Not Marvel, not anything. You know, it's just like
I think some of those other movies that hit on the nostalgia piece kind of made you feel that sort of sense of togetherness, like Ghostbusters or Top Gun.
Ghostbusters,
yeah, or Top Gun.
But my thing on this is that those movies had like an expectation.
Sure.
My thing is, this is like maybe a movie you're just like going to where it's just like, I got nothing else to do, or it's like it's 98 degrees outside. Let's just sit in air conditioning and watch this. You know, it's $7, and then like everybody's gonna walk out and be like, wow, like that was totally worth it. It's like if someone had told me I like had to pay $7 to see this in theaters, I would not have been disappointed walking out. Like, I mean, the full 15, whatever it can cost. Yeah, things get a little more ridiculous, but it, you know, that's the thing. It's just like it's been a long time since I've seen a movie in a theater that, and I used to go to like movies a lot before I like actually had a job where like you could just go anytime. And it's like when we saw Nacho Libre, I think it's like a really, and that was just you and me.
Yeah.
But you know, which is like, but we saw it as like a matinee or whatever, and it was just, I don't know what my expectation was, other than I knew it'd be ridiculous, and I literally like fell over a chair laughing and had like a great time. And it's like even when we saw oh my gosh, Hellboy. Like, even though that was way over the top and I wouldn't say it was good, we all left that movie in like a good mood. Like everybody was kind of in on, or Snakes on a Plane. Like these kind of movies where you leave the theater.
Yes. And that's the thing that I would probably most closely compare this to.
Yeah.
Is that Snakes on a Plane vibe where it's like, we know what this is. And so we're just that's what we're going to deliver on.
You're along for the ride, and that's cool.
Exactly,
like, that's fine.
Yes, they did.
It's my big thing. Like, not everything has to be Goodfellas, and that's okay.
Right. Yeah,
and it's like totally okay. And for me, this was like a really, really good example of like, you're not Goodfellas, and I'm actually glad you were, because I enjoyed watching this in that kind of way.
You know, we talk about Netflix movies and we say things like, oh, well, this is good for a Netflix movie. Like Extraction, I think, is a good example. Well, this is really good for a Netflix movie. Or The Gray Man, where it was like, this is fine for a Netflix movie, but it like takes itself very seriously.
Right.
Whereas this was, I think, good. I just feel like it has cult classic capabilities.
Yeah. I can see this for
you know
sure.
what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that it's like just funny enough and just endearing enough that, you know, it's going to be a movie that 17 or 18-year-old kids find on a Sunday afternoon where they just don't have anything else going on. And they're just like, oh, let's watch something on Netflix. Oh, what's this thing with Snoop Dogg in it? You know? Yeah. And it could build that following. I do think the way the theaters are now, it probably would have gotten murdered if it weren't.
Oh, it would have got murdered in the theaters for sure. Yeah.
Maybe it's a
I mean, it's still Jamie Foxx
time right now. Here's how slow it is. Last week at the box office, Top Gun was third.
I mean, Top Gun just it keeps kicking. It's one of those movies too. It's just like
it's got a long tail. Yeah,
has a long tail, just like a jet plane will leave.
That was a reach. So what would you give? What would you give Day Shift out of 10?
Honestly, like 8.0, like an 8. Yeah, it's straight 8. I thought it was really entertaining. I really enjoyed it.
I would say 7.5, but Snoop Dogg with a minigun. So that's gonna bump it up to an 8 for me.
Also, Snoop Dogg surviving.
No sense.
That was great. No sense, and I loved
with
it.
With not even a scratch on him.
No, nothing. And it's just like, I don't need Snoop.
I don't need an explanation.
Nope.
I don't need one. I don't need one, and I don't want one.
Yep.
And
don't give me anything.
And this is the thing, is that it speaks to how unrealistic the Fast and Furious movies are.
Yep.
Because this shit happens all the time.
Yep.
It happens all the time there. And I love it. I'm there for it. But so 8.0 Day Shift. Check it out. It's awesome. If you like action movies, if you like comedy, if you like vampire movies that aren't like too like over the top sexual Twilight stuff,
Right.
it's fun. It's a fun romp.
But there's a Twilight reference in this. Just
there is a Twilight reference. Yeah. Okay.